before the three leave office, we must agree as a country, both sides of the political divide, the Jubilee coalition and the NASA side, the NASA coalition. We must sit and agree what happens next. How do we reconstitute IEBC? How do we restructure the Secretariat of IEBC? Because the biggest problem is with the Secretariat. Asking the three commissioners to leave at this moment is akin to saying that you want Chiloba back to IEBC. Because I think that is what a section of the political class is pushing for. They want a situation where there is a total paralysis of the commission, total crisis in the commission, by having the three remaining commissioners vacate office, after which Chiloba will just walk back to IEBC at the anniversary towers. But I want to be very categorical and clear that if Chiloba is thinking of going...
Okay, so I want to give you some more views on Twitter. George Morara Momanyi says, last year Parliament hurriedly made laws in the night to reduce the quorum of IEBC to 3 from 5, and that the Vice Chair can be the Chair or make the announcement in the absence of the Chair. Laws must never be made for a season, but must be made for all times, for power is transient and ephemeral. So this is where we want to take our conversation next. So, Joe, how do we reconstitute the Commission now that it seems like, at least on this panel tonight, there is consensus that it needs to be overhauled? So what are some of those templates? How do we begin? Where do we begin?
I think it's quite clear right now that we need to have a different mechanism. And one problem that we always have as Kenyans, and I have said it in different forums, that we try to embrace idealism, even when it doesn't work for us. And I believe idealism is one thing that hasn't worked in Kenya. And like Senator James Orengo said very clearly, that let us not embrace something that we have tried over and over again. Let us not follow the same path. I hear people talking about send-off packages. This is the same thing that happened with Hassan. Where do we get these resources? This is a developing country.
Yeah, but it is the law, Joe, is it not?
It is the law. It is the law, I agree. But one, we have to embrace our differences as a people and then focus on having a proper commission that will stand the test of time. If you look at this from this perspective, that we give them send-off packages, then we follow the same route into constituting a different IEBC, then what are we doing? Are we just following the same track and following the same mistakes each and every time? As a country, we're not learning. But now this is what I think. I think the best way to go, which has been suggested in some quarters, I also heard Senator James Orengo with the same sentiments. He said very clearly, we have to go the IPPG style. We have to embrace the fact that the stakeholders in elections majorly are political parties. And if they are political parties, and if the main issue that we have in this commission is bipartisan, then why don't we accept the fact that they will always be partisan people, and then put people there who represent the interests of these political parties based on parliamentary representation? I think this is the best way of reconstituting IEBC. But first of all, the current members of IEBC have to go. And let me make a point. It also shows the hypocritical nature of our politicians, that right now you see one divide is saying that the IEBC needs to be probed. These are the same people who supported the standpoint of IEBC when last time before the elections. They actually fully supported IEBC to remain in office. They are the same people saying that these people should be probed because they are inadequate. They say that these people are not accountable. So how are they in office if they believe that these people are not accountable? How are they in office if they believe that this same commission is not able to even move 1 year later after elections? So this is a very hypocritical nature. So we have to focus right now on taking this commission home completely. And let us not work on send-off packages. Let us work on justice. Let us find justice for Kenyans. If there are accountability issues within IEBC, let us probe them properly using the right channels.
Okay.
And then,
so no send-off packages, but rather subjecting them to justice. Okay. Grace Chege doesn't share your view, Joe. She says, whatever it is, the commissioners must not be picked by politicians. The current commission has seemingly collapsed due to lack of independence because of political interference. Political appointees may pose problems within a commission if they were to adopt hardline stances. Steve, so IPPG, is that something workable, or is there another formula that we have possibly not thought of?
Thank you, Yvonne. Well, first of all, we must make some honest admission. The first admission is that the independence of the IEBC is a failed project. Now, the failure of IEBC to preserve its independence is a shared problem between the political class and the Commission itself. The political class, because it's well known to all of us Kenyans that politicians during elections have tried to manipulate the IEBC to have positions that are favorable to them. Internal, because IEBC commissioners have admitted that they have sometimes responded to external political manipulation. Now, in terms of framing the next action point, Kenyans must realize that if you leave this process entirely to politicians, they will shape it in a manner that protects or preserves their interests, perceived political interests. Politicians have the binary interest of what they call the national interest, and then the undisclosed or unspecified personal interest of preserving their election or those of their preferred candidates. Now, internationally, there are two known approaches when you're reconstituting or constituting an election management body. You can take the approach that our Constitution presently endorses, that of insulation from external interference. Or you can take the approach which I now also endorse, and Senator Orengo spoke to it, this one of inoculating a bit of politics into the election management body, which means if we reach a point where we can admit that regulation of politics be left to politicians, we'll be making an honest admission that can save this country in the future. How do we do this without harming IEBC and also hampering its ability to deliver in its mandate? What has been done is this elsewhere. You can have the IPPG format where you have political parties nominating persons whom they want to sit in the IEBC, and the selection panel, which anyway is comprised of 4 people from the Parliamentary Service Commission and 4 persons from representing religious groups, vetting these people, testing them for suitability, for competence, for relevant experience, so that when you appoint a commission that, let's say for purposes of argument, has Senator Orengo himself there and Senator Kiraitu Murungu in there, the anxiety that NASA will be shortchanged or that Jubilee will be shortchanged and therefore threatening national stability, that will be dealt with. But then also, without compromising the quality of service, if these people are professionals and experts, they will care to preserve their own integrity as experts. So there's that need for Kenyans to have a discussion whether we still want to continue with this neutral approach, neutral experts approach, or we want experts with non-political persuasions. That is the debate Kenya should be having.
Okay, but I think the question is, fine, we can talk about having political representation in the IEBC, but then again, there will be the smaller parties that will, cry about being left out, and perhaps justifiably so, because again, we're going back to 2 big political parties. If you were to take a look at the situation currently in the country, it would be ODM versus Jubilee once again in the commission. So what happens to the other smaller parties? What happens to Tip if it still exists? I mean, do they not get representation in this commission?
Yvonne, that's a very important question, but if some political parties are excluded, it will be a welcome consequence of democracy. Look at Parliament the way it is now. The nominated MPs in Parliament, the nomination is based on parliamentary party representation. So if Tip does not have a member of Parliament in the National Assembly, then they will lose out, but representation will be done pro rata. How many MPs does Jubilee have? How many MPs does ODM have? How many MPs does Wiper have, for instance? Then we will agree how to allocate those seats. What we must care for, Kenyans must debate outside the political influence and spaces. Are we really certain that that is the way we want to go? What are the benefits? What are the challenges? Already the challenges of pretending to have an independent commission, and I've already noted is a failed project. So let us interrogate that. And I'm of the view that since this is not a novel idea, it happens elsewhere. Now, we could have a selection panel that whose only mandate now is to approve, since Parliament would then be nominating from their parliamentary party strengths, based on their parliamentary political party strength. The selection panel will be receiving petitions and reviewing their competencies and suitabilities of these proposed names, and if they are found to be suitable, then the president will appoint according to that recommendation made to them.
Okay.
But yes, there may be benefit in terms of discharging the tension.
All right. I'd like to give the Senator a moment to just weigh in because we're almost out of time. Sorry to cut you off, Steve. So, Senator, I'd like you to first respond because you have, politicians have been indicted, at least by both Joe Kaunda and Steve Ogola. So how different will it be? Because you know, politicians have been accused of meddling with what's happening in the commission. So even if we reconstitute it and that outside interference still remains, what would you have to say to that? And then you can also give us your suggestion as to how we reconstitute the IEBC.
Thank you, Yvonne. I know politicians are normally accused over many things, but it is interesting because the selection panel included the religious leaders and other stakeholders. But what I want to agree that is in future, as I had insisted when we started this show, that we need to have a bipartisan approach towards bringing up an electoral commission that is of integrity. But I cannot, we have to guarantee that the main players in this game are the politicians. And therefore, if our interests are gathered for, it will mean that the process will be easy in terms of reconstitution. It will mean the process will be easy in terms of managing elections. Because when you manage elections, and we have the like of IPPG agreement and many other jurisdictions that we have seen, that there is input of particular stakeholders, and more so the major stakeholders should be the political class and also other stakeholders, so that it allows easy management. So that this issue of counter-accusing each other, saying somebody bungled election, somebody has stolen election, will become a thing of the past.
All right, Senator, allow me to ask you, because you talked about if the interests of the political class are catered for, and you know, if they are well represented in the IEBC, but what about the biggest stakeholder, and that is the voter and the taxpayer? Where do they come in terms of representation on a commission like this?
Are you aware that, of course, every Kenyan is aware under the Constitution that politicians are elected by Kenyans. So we are representative as provided under the Constitution, Article 96 of the Constitution. So when I speak in either forum, I speak on behalf of maybe 90 county residents, for example. So when you bring the interest of these political parties, as you have said, on the table, it will be easy to manage and ensure that the integrity process of elections is protected, so that we don't have to sanitize elections when it is over accusing each other. Number two, as you have put it rightly on the suggestions, is that when you look at the Kriegler report, it was very categorical that let us have commissioners in place at least 2 years before the general elections. Let us have 30 months procure some of these some of these items that we need to manage elections. And I think that it is the right time. And then we need to look at the elections laws, so that at least we can have the amendment in place, even at least let's have it even a year before.
Okay,
and then
Senator,
we look at...
Senator, sorry, I have 1 minute, and I'd like to ask you this question about the qualifications of the people you think should be in that commission. We set such a high standard. I mean, the chair is the equivalent of a Supreme Court judge. I mean, but with all of these standards that we set, we still come to the same problem 6 electoral management bodies later. What are we missing?
I think what we are missing is the injection of the political class. And I think even as we have, it is good to have the same high standards of having chairs being the judge of the Supreme Court. But we need the touch of political class. When we have the touch of political class, it will be easy to manage the elections in this country and ensure the process appears fair to both parties, because the moment we have everybody, maybe representative of various political class or stakeholders in the commission, we will have less of protracted fight over the management of elections in this country. And I think that's, although we'll be making radical proposals that might even involve the amendment of the Constitution, so that we can ensure that we protect the integrity as envisaged by the Constitution of the electoral process in this country.
All right, thank you very much.
And
Senator, yes?
Before I let you, in fact, we need to relook at the number of commissioners.
Yeah.
And I think we have said before, and we were discussing that we need to have at least full-time 3 commissioners, and maybe 2 that will come on contract basis or when there is work needed, so that we also lessen. You know, the more the commissioners, the more interest you will have that this tribe will not be taken care of, the political class. But when we have the little number that we have, we'll more concentrate on the process rather other than the people that have been appointed. And therefore, the Secretariat, I think it is the high time that let us not personalize. I saw the leader of minority in the National Assembly trying to personalize that if so-and-so, if, for example, the CEO Chiloba comes back or you send the 3 commissioners out, then Chiloba will walk back into the... These are some of the issues that we will handle in a bipartisan approach. It doesn't need to politicize. We need to do it in a bipartisan approach by consensus of the golden handshake.
All right, we have to leave it at that for now. Thank you very much. And we will look forward to whether the 3 commissioners will go before your committee on Friday. We'll definitely be watching out for that. Thank you, Senator Samson Cherargei, lawyer Steve Ogolla, as well as lawyer Joe Kaunda. Thank you very much, gentlemen. That's it for our show this week. We thank you for watching. The conversation continues. The hashtag is The Big Story. I'm Yvonne Okwara Matole. Good night.